Did your investigation find that the Russian government perceived it would benefit from one of the candidates winning?
Yes.
And which candidate would that be?
Well, it would be Trump.
There is a little highlight from the Mueller testimony today, right before the House Judiciary Committee. Now, we will share our analysis on that in just a minute, but I think it's important to show the distinction between the line of questioning we saw from Democrats versus Republicans. That clip that you just saw there was Representative Zoe Lofgren, a senior Democrat within the committee, who wanted to really hone in on the fact that the Russians certainly did have a preference when it came to the election, and they certainly did reach out to members of the campaign. However, based on the Mueller report, obviously, he claimed that there wasn't enough evidence to charge him with conspiracy. Yeah. Now, one important piece of information before we move on to the rest of the videos. Mueller was told that he is not able to press charges against the president, right? That is not his job. His job was to do this investigation. That is his prosecutorial duty in this case. But through this investigation, he is supposed to hand over the evidence to members of Congress, and then they make a decision as to what they do with the evidence that he's provided. It did not exonerate Donald Trump when it came to the issue of obstruction of justice. In fact, according to the report, there were at least 10 instances that could be considered obstruction of justice. So that's something that everyone should know as we move forward, because right now, today, Donald Trump is running around doing a victory lap and pretending as though he's been completely exonerated by this report, and that is not the case.
Everything that you just said is not what I read on Twitter, and so I reject it out of hand.
Well, I mean, we gotta believe what Twitter says, right?
Yeah, very important that he kept referring to the OLC, Office of Legal Counsel, which if you're from outside of the US or you haven't been through poli-sci classes is more important than the Constitution. OLC has been around for several thousand years, a mystical organization that we must bow down to, never question, certainly never change. If they had a memo at some point half a century ago, case closed, that should be the end of it.
Right, so obviously John's being sarcastic for anyone who might not pick up on that sarcasm. But nonetheless, I do want to move on to the first video. This is Representative Ted Lieu from California, and I think he did an excellent job in his line of questioning. That can't be said of every Democrat, but I want to give you a sense of how good he was in just revealing what the Mueller report actually said.
Quote, Sessions was being instructed to tell the special counsel to end the existing investigation into the president and his campaign, unquote. That's in the report, correct?
Correct.
Okay. That would be evidence of an obstructive act because it would naturally obstruct their investigation, correct?
Correct.
And you wrote, quote, by the time of the president's initial one-on-one meeting with Lewandowski on June 19th, 2017, the existence of a grand jury investigation supervised by the special counsel was public knowledge. That's in the report, correct?
Correct.
That would constitute evidence of a nexus to an official proceeding because a grand jury investigation is an official proceeding, correct?
Well, yes.
Evan, do you see where there's the intent section on that page?
I do see that.
Part C. All right. You wrote, quote, substantial evidence indicates that the president's effort to have Sessions limit the scope of the special counsel's investigation to future election interference was intended to prevent further investigative scrutiny of the president's and his campaign's conduct, unquote. That's in the report, correct?
That is in the report.
I believe a reasonable person looking at these facts could conclude that all three elements of the crime of obstruction of justice have been met. And I'd like to ask you, the reason again that you did not indict Donald Trump is because of OLC opinion stating that you cannot indict a sitting president, correct?
That is correct.
So Ted Lieu came prepared, and we can't show you all of what happened today because we would literally be here. I mean, I don't know, is it still happening?
That was like 5 or 6 hours.
It was 5 or 6 hours, but I felt like throughout this entire testimony, there was evidence, at least it seemed to me that there was evidence that Democrats didn't get together and have like a real strategy. And if they did, that strategy fell short. Ted Lieu came prepared. I think that he was concise. He had the specific excerpts from the actual report that he could refer to. And to be fair, other Democrats did as well. But he knew exactly what he was doing. He knew exactly how to do so in a very concise way. And it perfectly demonstrated how the Mueller report did not in any way exonerate Donald Trump of obstruction. And he gave specific examples why.
If there was a strategy, I don't think it was very well thought out necessarily. He did a good job. I mean, I think most of the Democrats, when they were planning what they were gonna say, that was what they were gonna do.
Exactly.
They were gonna sketch it out, and what they were gonna do was they were gonna demonstrate that Trump had done all of these things to break the law, and that's bad, and Republicans would change their mind because they live in Fantasia and that's a thing that could happen. It's not a thing that could happen. And the frustrating thing there is, although we do have to acknowledge that last little quote there, Mueller did to some extent walk back what he said there, just to be fair. But everybody-
Can you elaborate on that a little more?
Yeah, so the last question was, the reason you didn't indict was because of the OLC memo, and he said yes, which he sort of muddled later on, saying we didn't make a decision to indict or not. The question that he was asked and his answer made it seem as if that was the only reason there wasn't an indictment. That was the reason there wasn't a choice about an indictment, which is not the same thing, to be fair. But everybody went into this, at least the Democrats, thinking we're gonna get something big and new. And the thing is, what are you expecting to get? You just saw something that's not big and not new and not exciting and nobody cares. A perfectly laid out example of how the president obstructed justice. But we already knew that, and nobody cares about obstruction of justice anymore. Nobody cares if the president broke the law anymore. And so what were you really hoping to get out of this? We already know everything we need to know.
I 100% agree with that analysis. I think that this was an attempt at political theater. And keep in mind that the main reason why Nancy Pelosi does not want to open an impeachment inquiry is because she thinks that it will hurt Democrats politically. Now look, the political aspect of this is what Democratic leadership is hyper focused on. And so do you think that this type of political theater is any different? Because what did Trump do right after this? What did he do as it was happening? He did a victory lap, and he can do the victory lap because most people, don't care about what's happening during this testimony. People have already chosen which camp they're on. There's the camp that wants to completely reject any and all evidence and assume that Donald Trump has been completely exonerated. And there's the camp that sees the clear instances of obstruction of justice, and they're wondering why aren't they opening up an impeachment inquiry against the president? So I don't understand the political calculation here. I don't think it's working. I think this attempt at political theater was a complete and utter disaster. But before we get to more of that analysis, I do want to juxtapose Ted Lieu's line of questioning with Louie Gohmert's line of questioning.
If somebody knows they did not conspire with anybody from Russia to affect the election, and they see the big Justice Department with people that hate that person coming after them, and then a special counsel appointed who hires dozen or more people that hate that person, and he knows he's innocent. He's not corruptly acting in order to see that justice is done. What he's doing is not obstructing justice. He is pursuing justice. And the fact that you ran it out 2 years means you perpetuated injustice.
I take your
Gentleman's
question.
time has expired. The witness may answer the question.
I take your question.
So John, is there any logic behind what Louie Gohmert said there? Maybe I'm too biased against Representative Gohmert. Maybe that was intelligent and I'm completely unaware.
It wasn't intelligent, but it's the best that you can expect from an ear with a human growing on it. So it does make logic if your starting point is Donald Trump cannot do any wrong. So he knows he's innocent because of course he's innocent, that is our starting point. And so anything he does in pursuit of proving his innocence, he can do whatever he wants because at the end of the day, he's innocent. We would never approach any other case or investigation in that fashion. He certainly would not, if it was, we were investigating President Clinton or whatever, he would not say, oh, so Bill Clinton was, he was harassing witnesses behind the scenes, he was trying to hamper the investigation, cut its funding. He probably just knew he was innocent. So much of what you heard is on its face, not even not a double standard, because they don't want a double, like they don't assume that the possibility of hypocrisy, like there was that. There was the guy who was going through the political donations of some of the lawyers on the Mueller team and saying, how is it that some of them have supported Democrats? As if, what are you gonna do? Find people who've worked their entire lives in DC in the Department of Justice and have no political opinions? And they, all of them, every single person that you saw there are now saying William Barr needs to go after the people that started this. They have to hunt them down and investigate them. And so I await those same Republicans grilling every member of his team, every attorney, to make sure that they've never registered for a party, that they've never made a political donation, because they've now set up the standard that you can't have any partisans working on these investigations. Do you think that he's gonna do that?
Of course not.
Of course not. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, and look, I want to look at the bigger picture for a second, because I don't think that conversation is really happening right now, and it's important to have that conversation. Everything that's happening and everything that the GOP is fighting aggressively for is increasing the power and the authority of the executive branch, right? This is essentially what they want William Barr to do in investigating the investigators, is essentially a way of intimidating anyone from ever wanting to open an investigation into possible criminal behavior by the commander-in-chief. That is not something that's indicative or representative of a so-called democracy. If you have that much power as the president of the United States, and anyone who even dares to question you or investigate you is going to be investigated themselves. I mean, we're now we've been in incredibly dangerous waters, and it's so short-sighted, because while they consolidate power in the executive branch, and the GOP is doing that, imagine if a Democratic president tried to pull these stunts. Now, Democrats are, well, let's just keep it real. They're not as obsessed with power and authoritarianism as the Republicans are. So I don't see them, doing what Republicans are doing right now.
They can certainly break the law, though.
They can certainly break the law, but just can you imagine if the tables were turned, right? Because if you're a Republican right now and you're okay with what's going on, are you gonna be okay with what's going on if you have, I don't know, President Hillary Clinton? Any other Democratic president?
But they don't have to be. Because it doesn't matter what they say now.
It's so dumb.
We always expect, it's gonna come back to bite you someday, but it's not. It's got no teeth and nobody will remember it. It doesn't matter. And you can play it right in front of them and it won't change anything.
All right, so I wanna go to another Republican lawmaker, Representative Ken Buck. And just, yes, we wanna pay attention to the substance, but I think the optics matter more. That's what Americans pay close attention to. So just take a look at his demeanor and the way he asks his questions.
The OLC opinion, Office of Legal Counsel, indicates that we cannot indict a sitting president. So one of the tools that a prosecutor would use is not there.
Okay, but let me just stop. You made the decision on the Russian interference. You couldn't have indicted the president on that, and you made the decision on that. But when it came to obstruction, you threw a bunch of stuff up against the wall to see what would stick.
Well,
and that is fundamentally unfair.
I would not agree to that characterization at all.
Okay, but could you charge the president with a crime after he left office?
Yes.
You believe that you could charge the president of the United States with obstruction of justice after he left office?
Yes.
So that last part is the substance that we should be paying attention to. But you got to also keep in mind that you'll have two different people watch that clip and come up with two completely different conclusions, because the outrage that you see from Representative Buck is what's going to speak to Republican voters. For us, we listen to that last part and we think, yeah, if this guy was not the president, he would be indicted.
Yeah.
He is a criminal. Okay, he has obstructed justice. There are specific examples in the Mueller report detailing how the president tried to obstruct justice, including attempting to fire Mueller himself. And then of course, White House counsel Don McGahn was like, yo bro, don't do that, it's a bad idea. I'm gonna quit if you do that. And Trump decided not to.
Yeah, and I know some people watch that, and I hate to be the person who kills hope or whatever, but the idea that,
it's gone already.
As bad as everything is, when he gets out of office, we're gonna pursue him. Nobody's gonna pursue him. We're gonna protest Kavanaugh after he got on the Supreme Court. Did that actually happen? Remember Obama, all the war crimes that were committed in Iraq? We're looking forward, we're not looking backward. Nothing's gonna happen to him. He's gonna live for another 2 years and he's gonna keel over in the middle of the night. That's what's gonna happen. And that moment, which was one of the strongest moments, I guess, in terms of Mueller laying out, here's the thing that could happen. One of the things that's so frustrating about having a government that's stuffed full of rabid conspiracy theorists is that they're dumb conspiracy theories, and there's two on display today. There's the fact that the FBI was trying to stop Trump from becoming president, the lovers' texts and all that. And then there's Mueller's just doing a coup or whatever. And in both cases, then why is he president? Why didn't they do anything before the election? Why didn't they reveal they were investigating him? They didn't. They revealed some stuff about Clinton a week before the election, but they were really mum. I guess that they just set their watches wrong for revealing the big plot to stop him before he became president. And now, if the whole thing was a big witch hunt, a 2-year plot to get him out of office, somebody should have reminded Mueller of that when he finished the report and deferred to the OLC memo, which he definitely did not have to do. He could have said anything in the thing today was like, well, come on, obviously he committed crimes. He could have laid out a clear path to impeachment. He chose not to. He wouldn't even defend himself, let alone attack Trump. And that guy who's like just trying not to offend anyone is the mastermind of a deep state coup to take out Donald Trump. That's what was being screamed at Mueller all day long in both of those hearings.
It's madness, it's absolute madness.
The TYT Plus app is now available on iOS and Android. Download to get more TYT content at tyt.com/app.